To our topic, and I present 3 our panelists.
Yes.
The first one, we will listen to Marta Verginella, principal investigator of Irene project. We all know her work very well. Her pioneering studies on memory studies, oral history, border studies mean a lot to all of us and influence, and I think they are crucial to a transnational dialogue in this area. She is author of many books and works. We really enjoyed reading, I think, all of us. So she will talk about one of her favorite topics, about teachers in the Littoral, and her research of history of Slovene schooling. So the floor is yours. Thank you.
Natka, thank you very much for this very nice presentation. I begin with one quotation. This is one article from Edinos. I don't have a time to read all, but I want to say sentences. The new era and Vienna's women. Having arrived in Vienna during the war, one saw women employees in every company. A woman conductor inconvenienced you on a train. A friendly conductor gave you your ticket on a tram. Letters were delivered by women couriers. Women in uniforms were everywhere. And then, men have returned to their post. Women lost the railway and the tram, the office and the barber shop, industries that were in the past occupied exclusively by men. Women conductors will end up merely in the history of the blood-stained war. Now, what? Did they earn wages allowing for more than food and arts? Are they not too old to play the domestic daughter, and the miserable circumstances allow for it? Will they find new jobs? The battlefield in the street will be horrendous, and mankind today, not only in Vienna, is tasked with preventing this miserable, shameful struggle to happen, the worst history has ever seen. Will mankind be strong enough? It has duties because these are the fruits of its own mistakes. The article addresses, published in 1990s, the article addresses the question of women's work during and after the war, and is one of the few instances in which the subject was discussed in the Triestine periodical Edinos. That serves me one of the sources for this paper. This is the most important Slovene language periodicals, which was published in the Austrian Littoral in a territory that was occupied by Italian troops in 1918. I have brought up this article because it demonstrates nicely the attitude of the then current public, even Slovene and Italian, towards women's employment, but also hope for the social circumstances and with them the hierarchy between genders to return to their former state. Immediately after its introduction, the Italian military administration began to put in place the new administration and a new administrative regime. In January 1990, the General Secretariat for Civil Affairs issued instruction for re-employing public servants in the occupied territories. The Provincial School Council, which was in the domain of the military authorities, confirmed and approved posting teachers in primary schools and in schools in the city. All public servants were controlled by the Supreme Military Command, the actual governing body in the occupied territories. New authorities gathered information on educators' political and moral orientation, as well as of their teaching activities. The political, or rather the national, reliability of teachers present in the occupied territory was scrutinized, especially that of Slovene and Croatian teachers who were perceived as obstacles, as enemies for the process of Italianization. In their study titled Scuola e Confini, Andrea and Melinato maintained that the soldiers' rigidity and anti-democratic tendencies on the one hand, and state officials' short-sightedness who sent them from all provinces to the new, unwilling to understand the complexity and diversity of social, political, and ethnic problems of the Julian March, on the other, created a difficult atmosphere. In the further course of my research, I intend to examine documents kept by the State Archive in Trieste, as well as provisions issued by the Commissariato Generale Civile in the field of schooling, and most all, to understand the role of soldiers who were quickly posed as teachers in the territory of the Julian March, especially in the Slovene populated areas. In two articles published in Acta Historia, which I dedicated to educated Triestine Slovene women and teachers as refugees after World War I have analyzed their autobiographical testimonies and their attitude towards the political changes in the post-war period, paying special attention to their attitude towards the Italian authorities. Their endurance in difficult circumstances and their despair upon their departure to Yugoslavia was evident. Today, I would like to focus on the data on teachers in the Littoral that were after World War II, gathered by Manca G and statistically processed by our Neža Trdin. The data gathered by Laurencic-Pahor indicate that 19 women and 11 men were employed as teachers in refugees camps. The majority of them stayed after the Great War in Yugoslavia, particularly in Syria, especially women, teachers from the Gorica region, where their homes and schools were demolished, remained in Yugoslav soil. It is my estimate that these data are incomplete, but indicative also in terms of gender ratio. A list of 23 teachers from the Littoral, 5 of whom were women, who went to Carinthia to help establish Slovene language schools in the worth mentioning. They returned home after the Carinthian legacy in 1921, when the bulk of the Slovene population in Carinthia opted for the Austrian state. Many Slovene schools in the territory of the former Austrian Littoral were not rebuilt. Some of them were turned into Italian schools without any legal foundation. It was forbidden to establish private schools or teach private lessons. On 18 January 1920, the Slovene Political Society Vinos demanded that all schools which had operated before the occupation be reinstated, and that Yugoslav, meaning Slovene and Croatian teachers who were refugees or internees, returned to their posts. In the list examined thus far, I have not noticed any women. Some number of statistics. 316 teachers emigrated to Yugoslavia after 1918. From these teachers, 143 of them were women. It can be gathered from this list that the bulk of teachers of both, we have here, yes, in this graph, we could see that in the case of the female teachers who immigrated to Yugoslavia, we find this big group from Gorizia, Goriška, and Carniola. Why Carniola? Because part of the Slovene teachers in Trieste were born in Carniola. In 1918 and 1990s, the majority of them were men in this population who left the previous Austrian Littoral or Venezia Giulia. However, after the introduction of Gentiles Reforma in 1924, which introduced Italian as the language of instruction, also in Slovene language schools, the number of women teachers who left the Julian March for Yugoslavia increased. Now we have here the statistic for the first years after the First World War. A comparison of departures indicates that emigration peaked particularly in 1990s, in 1929 and 1930. In the years when the Slovene school system in the Julian March, both public and previous private, experienced the most radical changes or was removed. Slovene teachers were part of the Julian March immigration flow that as early as in March 1990, so between 30 or 40,000 people leave the area, contributing to the radical weakening of the Slovene middle class. Later departure was taking place in the period of fascism in the 1930s. Almost resulted in an eradication of the Slovene intelligentsia in centers such as Trieste and Gorizia. From 1990 onward, the political society Dinos not only protested against the illegal removal of the Slovene language schooling and transfers of the Slovene gymnasium to Ajdovščina and the teachers training college to Tolmin, in two really very small places and peripheral towns. It also ran a campaign against immigrants who left voluntarily and refugees who preferred staying in Yugoslavia to returning to their homes. In the summer of 1920, the Office for the Occupied Territory in Ljubljana made consistent appeals for teachers to return to the littoral, but with no great success. The distribution of teachers from the littoral in Yugoslavia indicates that or from Venezia Giulia, indicates that the bulk of them were posted in Ljubljana, Murska Sobota, Maribor, and in the surroundings, and that school authorities sent them to the areas where teachers were scarce and where a comprehensive Slovene language school system had not been established yet. An analysis, this is the graph about the places in them, especially family teachers migrated. An analysis of their data of birth demonstrates that it was particularly young teachers or teachers belonging to the generation born in the years 1886 and 1919 that left. They were easily employable and willing to adjust to the new living conditions. The conditions changed swiftly after 1923, and an increasing number of teachers were forcibly transferred to Italy's interior. And now we have also, okay, this is the generation teachers who migrated by year of birth. Still one graph. and this is the graph about the places in them Slovene female teachers found a new teaching place. Especially Lombardy, Emilia-Romagna, Tuscany, Piedmont, and Umbria. But between in the years 1927 and 1931. Additional materials will have to be collected for a more comprehensive analysis. However, if we stick to Slovene documentations, the periodical Učiteljski list, a journal of the Association of Yugoslav Teachers in Trieste that was published from 1920 to 1926, help us shed light on the teacher situation. The journal documents political and literary discussions taking place among the younger generation of teachers, particularly those with socialist view who showed international and cosmopolitan aspirations. Reporting about the most innovative teaching and school-related experience from different parts of the world on a regular basis, for example, from USA, Great Britain, Bohemia, attest to their wish to transcend the local framework and work beyond restriction imposed by the new political and school Italian authorities. Articles dedicated to the most avant-garde artistic trends, futurism, constructivism, Zenitism, are an expression of the editors and the most prominent collaborators' aspiration to distance themselves from the canons of the bourgeois aesthetics. Reporting on the Russian revolutionary changes and achievements has a similar watershed link to it. Učiteljski list has turned out to be an important source, not only in terms of understanding the politics of hindering Slovene teachers, gradually restriction imposed on the Slovene language schooling, and the ultimate removal of the Slovene education, but also for examining responses to the gradual introduction of the Italian school legislature, attempts made by Slovene and Croatian teachers to form organization as well as of the establishment of self-administration and self-supply that would alleviate the consequences of the Slovene schools' integration in the new system. Additionally, it helps us detect forms of collaboration with Italian teachers, especially those identified with the Socialist and also the Communist Party. Učiteljski list is a journal of a society whose members were teachers of both genders. However, the editorial guidelines were firmly in the domain of men in the first 3 years that I have taken into consideration, even though appeals voiced there were, as a rule, directed at teachers of both genders. The ratio between members elected in respective societies indicates that women comprised about 1/3 or 1/3 of representatives, and for these reasons tensions occurred during the elections, and women teachers demanded to be treated as equals. It was particularly women's absence from the Central Committee that caused a strong reaction in 1923. In the periodical, women were criticized for not taking part in discussion, but as soon as women began to be more active in the association, an article was published in Učiteljski list that attempted to form guidelines for the image of an active woman. Now I don't have a time to read all this quotation, but in synthesis, the question is, this article proposed a new model, not a bourgeois model, it's Nora, but a proletarian woman. And now I have the last part, I hope I have a time. The presented ideal of a woman proletarian and fighter was in many respects far from values and goals set by the most emancipated teachers, one of the most prominent of whom was Paula Kocheva, who wrote for Učiteljski list and was a collaborator, after also the editor of Ženski list, a periodical first published in 1923 in Trieste by the Women's Charitable Association, Žensko dobrodelno udruženje. In the first year of its publication, the periodical's orientation indicates a tendency to give up organizational and cultural patterns characteristic of women bourgeois movement and the need to address to broader Slovene female population. Aloysia Števis report on the International Congress for Women's Suffrage, which took place from 12 to 18 May in Rome, I think in the 1924, is in a stark contrast with an image depicting women wearing national custom in issue number 7. So, and of the periodical. In the following issues, the periodical published pictures of women in national customs as well, by means of which it confirmed its commitment to the people, the nation, and most of all, its concern for the poorest and the neediest. The program published in the first issues in January 1923, I speak about Ženski state, was clear. Excessive rivalry with men is criminal. What is needed is women's charitable work, fighting debauchery, recklessness, and misery brought about the world. Retraditionalization was not only the result, in my opinion, of the rise of fascism. Attempts to restrict women's emancipationism had different roots. They were typical also of those who defied it or opposed it. As indicated by the example that I deal with, such aspiration came also from minority, Yugoslav minority, Slovene, and I think also Croatian circles. Not only liberal, but also socialist and communist ones, whereby an important part was played by the poverty and the misery of a significant part of the female population, who ultimately called for women's charitable work or their commitment to the class question. Thank you.
Wonderful lecture, and let's go on with Renko, who's a researcher in women's history.